Hey guys, welcome back to Murder in Retrograde. It's been a hot minute. We took some time off for the holidays and then life came at us. So we had to come back a little bit later than planned, but we are so excited to be back and to be here and to talk true crime. Before we get into the case that we're going to talk about today, we do have a couple of updates on cases that we've talked about previously. So Brittany, do you want to start us off?
Yes. So since the break, it wasn't a big break, but a lot happened. And first of all, we saw 60-year-old Ghislaine Maxwell be found guilty of sex trafficking a minor, transporting a minor for criminal sexual activity, and 3 counts of conspiracy. So she was convicted, which is amazing.
Yes. And then like 2 days later. So once the case is done, right, the jury is allowed to give interviews or talk about their experiences because it's no longer an active trial, right?
Oh no.
So literally like the day after all of this happened, I forget the juror's name right now, but he did an interview. And in that interview, he said he was able to bring a different viewpoint to the deliberations because he has had a past with sexual abuse. Well, don't you know, the defense lawyers were like, rawr, because you know that they're not going to allow.
He didn't disclose it.
He doesn't know. He says he, quote, flew through the questionnaire and he says that he was nothing but honest. But as much as we know about this stuff, like no defense lawyer wants abuse victims on a trial that has to do with abuse. So
of course not.
It also came out, I think 1 or 2 other juries had past of sexual abuse, whether it was disclosed or not. So now there's all this research or time being taken out to look at if they disclose what their questionnaires were and if this is going to lead to a mistrial. And then at that point they can say we're not trying her again, or they can try her again. I know when they won't try her again if this
this is news to me. I didn't see this, but when her guilty verdicts came in, I was like, no, that's too soon. And this is not how it works, because in my opinion, this is very multi-layered. This has world powers involved. This has royalty involved.
Yeah.
And the powers that be in those realms can do anything, as we've seen with Jeffrey Epstein. I maybe some people do believe that he killed himself. I certainly do not.
I do not.
But when I saw that guilty verdict, I thought, how are they going to get around this? But of course, I mean, they could be plants, those jurors. I mean, they could have gone to them and paid them to do this sort of thing, because this is exactly the situation we got in with Scott Peterson. Thank God he was, convicted, but then during the sentencing, those jurors spoke and they read, one of them, the woman didn't disclose that she had been a victim of domestic violence. And yes, those are huge deals. When you're doing jury selection, defense attorney, of course they asked that question.
And she has a very good defense team. So there's no way they knew that these people had a pass and then still put them or okayed them for the jury. So that's what it's like, as honest as people. And granted, like I've heard these questionnaires are really, really long.
They are.
And so it's like, I don't think it was maliciously done, but at the same time, I feel like that should have been a question that was asked. And if that was a question that was asked, then if they didn't tell the truth, and that's a whole other situation. But
I don't know anything about this juror because this is news to me, but there's no way, because you fill out that questionnaire and then you are questioned by the defense attorney. Yeah. So multiple times, I'm certain they said, have you ever been a victim of this? Have you ever been around this?
Yeah.
And if they said no, they lied under oath, and you get a brand new trial. So that's horrific. Was that like recent, like this weekend or something?
It was literally like 2 days after the verdict came through. It was like, yay.
Oh man. All right. Well,
I had mentioned her before, but that Instagram House and Habit does a really good job of kind of diving deep and all this. And that's who I follow. And when I saw her posting all this stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, like what? And so yeah, we'll see what happens. I think she's going to be scot-free soon here. That's just,
what I heard? Opinion. Allegedly, one of the people that helped her when she was hiding out was Yolanda Hadid,
Stop.
the Real Housewife. Yeah,
Stop
because she
it.
has a huge compound in Pennsylvania. That's where Gigi lives, and she has like houses for all her kids. And somebody said it allegedly. I don't know if it's accurate, but that is where she was hiding.
That's wild. It's like when true crime and Bravo collide. It's like so interesting.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
man.
Yes. Okay. So moving on. This was so, I mean, this update made my year already, and it's January. Just days ago, a verdict came down in the Ahmaud Arbery trial. If you've been under a rock and don't know this story, Ahmad was a 25-year-old Black man who was chased and shot dead while on a run in February 2020. And prosecutors only pursued the case after a video of the killing went viral in May 2020, sparking national outrage. Thank goodness. And so all three men were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Travis and Gregory, the father's son, McMichael, they both received life without parole. And then William, Roddy, Brian, peaches and cream with the bangs to here, got life with the possibility of parole. And I was so happy he got life. He thought he was out of it. He was on CNN the night that it aired, remember, trying to act like he was this, I was just a bystander. And I'm really glad that the judge was awesome in this case.
Yeah, I never saw that CNN interview you're talking about, but I can't help but wonder if this wasn't captured and like posted for everyone to see, like what would have happened.
Nothing. I think nothing. We probably never would have heard about it, sadly. And those men would just be living their lives like right after, right? They were allowed to go to their house. They were covered in blood and they were not taken to a police station. They just were allowed to go clean themselves off. And then also, just in case you're wondering why they all received life sentences, because I was, under Georgia law, the minimum sentence for felony murder is life in prison.
Oh,
but
good.
The question of parole is always left up to the judge. So interesting.
It is interesting. It's always helpful to keep in mind that these things are state per state and things can vary so much.
So
it's
much.
confusing when you're like, wait a second, why does this person over here? It gets confusing. So
yeah,
it does shed some light. So moving along, we've got lots of case updates. Delphi, which is the first case we ever covered, still something that we are both like so attached to. It's heating up a bit. So Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby said investigators have received about 500 calls since the information on the fake, quote, Anthony Shots profile that we had told you about a few weeks ago. At least 3 women have told local Indiana station News 8 that they received disturbing messages from either the Anthony Shots profile or the personal account of Keegan Klein. So Klein admitted to state and federal agents that he opened the account just 12 days after the murders. So Abigail 13 and Libby 14 went out to the Mohan High Bridge near Delphi for a walk on February 13th, 2017. And basically what happens next is a mystery. And then their bodies were found. And if you want the full story on this, like I said, it's the first case we ever really covered. So you can go back and listen to it. Not much has really changed since that episode, sadly, other than what we had talked about a few weeks with this whole profile coming to light. And then our final update, January 7th, which is oddly, you know what I realized really quick? That's my wedding anniversary. So I feel like it's very interesting that the person, I know, I don't mean that in like a weird way, but like the one case I'm like obsessed with went missing on my wedding anniversary. Like, that's so weird.
No, I feel bad because isn't that also the day they did the insurrection?
No, the 6th.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good.
By
good,
a day.
Woo! Woo! Made it.
Anyways, so on January 7th this year marked the 1-year anniversary of Mother Maya Millette being missing. We still have no idea where she is. To this day, they still are doing searches and you can donate and help and all that stuff. And I think it will eventually come out. I mean, her husband's sitting in jail right now. So I don't know if he is going to eventually give it up or if he's going to pretend that he's innocent this whole time. I mean, time will tell, but we're definitely going to keep watching out for what's going on with that case.
Jenna, because you're so into this case and you keep on top of it, what do you think happened? Because obviously we both think she's no longer, because she would definitely have contacted her children. What do you think happened to her body? Like, why? Because they have ring footage, they have the cell phones, and they live in San Diego. Where do you think it's like in water? Why can't they find it?
Okay, so here's my theory, and I have nothing based on just like just making it up at this point.
Of course.
So first of all, he was smart enough to leave his cell phone at home. So I think he was very aware of videos or tracking, surveillance, that kind of thing.
But every car has a GPS.
His black box. Okay, so this is when they finally got the car. His GPS wasn't turned on until he was in a certain radius of his house. So he was, and his brain so far from where he left her, allegedly, that's when he turned on the GPS to get home. They've never released where that area was, that he got close enough, but far enough away from where he, could have done bad things.
Yeah.
I think he went somewhere in the desert somewhere to bury her, because literally, like, who's walking around in the middle of a fucking desert? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we're so close to Palm Springs. We're so close to places of just sand and desert. And I think his whole "I was at the beach" thing probably came from thinking that they would find sand in his car or whatever. So that's why I think he said beach when he could have possibly really been at like a desert area somewhere. That is my theory, but there's no proof other than,
I know, just to play devil's advocate, like there's so many cameras now, and like I've watched cases where it's an old truck, it would never have GPS, but they catch it on camera. But yeah, I mean, if you're in the desert, there's not a lot of places that, if you just avoid all of the freeway exits, maybe.
I don't know how much they have never come out and said that they've tracked him on like freeway cameras or anything of that nature, because I would think that would be something to try for, right? Like if you can catch, but I know that stuff takes time, so I don't know. I mean, they've never really released what they've been doing. They've kept it like similar to Delphi, right? They keep a lot to the vest. Like they didn't even release a lot of information until he was already arrested, and so it's just, we don't know.
And I guess even if you had a track, because you could go to the desert east of San Diego, you wouldn't even need to go to Palm Desert. But if you went off-roading, then a camera would never see you. I guess there are ways, because I'm always being the devil's advocate, like how could they have caught that?
And they went to Glamis and stuff like that, right? So like dunes, and that's why they had searches there. And so it's kind of like, well, yeah, but how are you supposed to search that kind of area? So,
have you been there, those dunes?
I
just wonder if there's like tire tracks everywhere, because you would also think in a desert you could see tire tracks for quite a while. But
I've driven past some of those, like, I don't think it was Glamis, but I've driven past some of those like hill, and yeah, there's tire tracks everywhere because there's always people going
off-roading,
or RV tripping, camping, like all kinds of stuff.
All right, so now that we've updated you on a few really important cases and some conclusions, we come to today's case, which will cover the violent custody handoff that went viral last year.
Yeah, everyone remembers this awful video of two men wrestling over a rifle when it goes off. When the smoke cleared, on the floor was one man dead and the other was standing over him with the rifle. So we've all seen that video, and if you haven't, you can look it up for reference, but there's a lot more to this story, so let's get into it.
I'm Brittany Sheffrin.
I'm Jenna Kaplan.
And this is Murder in Retrograde.
I'll go get him. I'm supposed to have him at 3:15. And you're playing games telling me that I can pick him up at 6? I'm going to have the cuffs. I've already got the cuffs on the way to your mom's house. Because that's probably where he is. It's not when I'm done working. I'll get him at 3:15. I get him at 3:15. I don't care if you wanted to see him or not. I get him at 3:15. If you want to see him, you see him up until 3:15. You keep trying to keep my son from me. I'm fixing to drag you and Anne-Marie and everybody else into court. I'm subpoenaing your mom. I'm subpoenaing Anne-Marie.
This is on video. I'm very
Yeah,
glad.
I am.
Leave!
Do it.
Right
You
now.
better use it, mother. God damn it, I'll take it from you.
Call the police. Call 911.
My son.
Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. I have it on video, Kyle. You did it, not him.
I told all of y'all to leave.
We came to get his son.
He's not here.
She should have told that.
Employment.
She should have told
None
that.
of y'all should be here. None of y'all should be here. I asked you to leave. I did everything. I did not want to do any of this.
911. I'll turn out my husband.
So what you just heard was the altercation between two men during a custody exchange. The man who was shot was 54-year-old Chad Reid. The man who shot him was William, but he goes by the name Kyle Carruth. And he just so happens to be the estranged husband of a local judge whose name is Anne-Marie Carruth, who was also present at the time of this shooting, by the way, but we'll get to that. And one more thing we found on Kyle Carruth that's kind of note. He was the coalition leader for the Lubbock branch of the Second Amendment rights. So definitely a pro-gun, a pro-Second Amendment person. So that's, something to keep in mind.
And kind of on that note, before we go too further, is that if you're the leader of a branch like that, you have thorough knowledge of gun, and I would assume gun safety at that point. So any kind of, I didn't know, or, those kind of things would come into play in that also. So let's work through the timeline of events and help explain what happened seemingly in a blink of an eye. We're going to go chronologically through it to make it a little bit more digestible. So on November 5th, on the 2100 block of 90th Street, according to the Lubbock's police, Chad Reid was shot and killed by Kyle Carruth, as we said. However, the LPD did not release the name of the shooter. I remember when this came out, this was a very interesting little tidbit, and I don't think any cases that I've read about, it's not really happened unless it's been like a minor involved. So I thought that was interesting. The Lubbock's police department responded to the 2100 block of 90th Street after a woman called just before 4:30 p.m. and said someone had shot and killed her husband. LPD said that one person was found dead on the scene.
So then on November 6th, 2021, the day after the shooting, LPD released the identity of the person who died as 54-year-old Chad Reid. But they also said it appeared, quote, there was a verbal altercation between Reid and another male related to a domestic incident that turned physical, end quote. LPD also said no arrests had been made, but the investigation was ongoing. The identity of the shooter was still not released, which is standard procedure by police when no one has been charged with a crime. But still, it's kind of weird. Kyle Carruth was first identified as the shooter in a November 8th filing by Anne-Marie Carruth in the couple's divorce case. We'll also get to that. So then on November 9th, everythinglubbock.com obtained the police report for the incident. The entire report consisted of just 4 lines of text. Keep in mind, this is for an altercation, a custody dispute, a shooting, and a murder. I mean, somebody was killed.
Yeah.
It seems a little strange. So they contact LPD, who said it was standard operating procedure to leave little detail on a police report that is currently being investigated.
That is such bullshit. I'm sorry. But every police report I've ever seen, it's like you have to put the most detail down because that's what people reference later. Like, that is bullshit.
And, you know, I can't help but remember he's connected to a local elected official, which is why he wasn't named as the shooter immediately or taken into custody, according to some people. Several sources indicated the shooter shared close ties with the state district judge in Lubbock. So we know about his wife. Maybe he's connected to other officials as well. So because of this, the Lubbock County District Attorney's Office recused itself, as they should.
Well, you know why? Is because and I'm going to mess it up. It was either, I think the judge that was supposed to be doing this was also the judge that was like aiding in their divorce or something. And so that's why he ultimately recused himself.
There's quite a few recusals, so it might be
maybe
one
it was
coming up.
One then. Yeah. But it is interesting kind of going back, like when you're married to someone, you attend functions together, like, especially when you have like a wife that has to probably attend a bunch of stuff. So I'm sure he's friendly with people, and then people are going to extend a courtesy for her more than him, kind of thing. So it's like, people in high places, I guess. Okay, so it's now 5 days since the shooting of Chad Reid on November 10th, and after many media outlets began questioning the Lubbock police in regards to their lack of transparency in the case, the LPD released a statement saying, quote, LPD recognizes there is public interest in the case. There are multifacets on this ongoing investigation that dictate what can and cannot be released to the public per Texas state law. So the Lubbock police also said that because there was no direct and ongoing threat to the public, the suspect information cannot be released.
So many excuses for not releasing this information.
Yeah. Then just after 7 p.m., the Lubbock County District Attorney, Sunshine Stanek, confirmed that the DA's office had in fact recused itself from the Chad Reid case. The reason given was that the local elected official could not possibly be called as a witness. It's very interesting. But you know what? I will say that they did recuse themselves, so that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Versus just forcing yourself into these things.
Right. So then abruptly, but thankfully, on November 16th, 6 days after Lubbock police released yet another statement saying that it had transferred all case files to the Texas Attorney General's office. So now they're totally off the case. From November 19th to the 22nd, the Lubbock Avalanche Journal reported that State District Judge Anne Marie Carruth filed an affidavit in her ongoing divorce case with Kyle Carruth, as we had mentioned. The judge admitted under oath that her estranged husband was under investigation for the deadly shooting. Conveniently, the following Monday, all of those court documents were sealed. Even the order to seal the documents was sealed, which is absurd. Not something that's common in cases where somebody has died. So on November 24th, Chad's widow, Jennifer Reid, released a cell phone video of the deadly confrontation. The video was released in conjunction with a petition to take custody of Chad's children from ex-wife Christina Reid, who was in the video. That's who he's speaking to in the beginning.
So really quick, I kind of wanted to touch on this because when I was reading about this case, I was like, that seems weird to me that essentially a stepmom is trying to take custody away from a biological mom. And I dove a little bit deeper into this, and she claims that one of the children, I guess there's multiple, which I didn't know either, that one of the children came to her and said, like, they prefer to want to live with her. They didn't want to be anywhere near the person who killed their father.
Yeah.
And there was some other reason, something, I forget what the other one was.
I mean, that alone, understandably so.
Yeah. And so because again, like you just don't know the dynamics, right? But and we don't know if the mom is unfit in any way or not, but that is one of the main reasons, that she wanted to protect her husband, her widow's kids, from being around the person who ultimately killed their dad. So that was the reason behind all of that. So like I said, the video that most of us have seen showed a heated argument between Chad and Kyle, followed by the shooting. And I will warn you, listen, like it's not easy to watch, but it's there if you would like to have, want to. An affidavit written by Jennifer was also included in an exhibit for the petition. In the affidavit, Jennifer Reid said, in her opinion, that Christina and Kyle, quote, engaged in a conspiracy to assault and or murder Chad that day. After the video was released, Kyle's lawyer, David M. Gwynn, provided a statement to everythinglubbock.com and said that the shooting was in self-defense. On a self-defense case, by the way, and sorry to keep doing that, but there was a YouTube that I found that I thought was very interesting. And it's from a self-defense attorney, and it's like a 30-minute video. And he goes through everything in Texas that's considered self-defense. Like there's different branches of it, right? And I think there was like 4 to 5 of them. And he takes the time to go through every single one of those and explain from just the videos alone that he's seen, because obviously maybe there's something that we don't see or whatever, but from his standpoint of like being in that line of work and watching the video, and he says basically none of those would give justification for self-defense in his opinion. But we'll put it on our website and everything so you can watch it if you so care to learn more about it. But I found it to be very interesting. So Gwen said that Chad threatened to take the gun from Kyle, and in doing so posed an immediate threat. He was, quote, raising his left leg when he was continuing to advance on Kyle, threatening him and posing an immediate threat. Kyle responded. Gwen said, this is a justifiable homicide. Additionally, Gwen released another video of the shooting taken from inside Kyle's business.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the like Florida stand your ground, and I know Texas for sure. They're very big on protecting your home, your family, all of that. It doesn't look like self-defense, but we don't know the law. And if that is the law, and if all you have to do is advance on somebody and try to take their gun, I guess that's it. And I mean,
any good lawyer is going to be able to on both sides. But from the video that I saw that I was just referring to, he was saying in the video, it does not seem there's imminent threat there at all. Like he was with, not far away. The one person had a freaking gun. The other person wasn't, in his opinion, approaching, because if you notice in the video from the angles, you can't really tell he's out of line of shot, or it's like behind, and then you don't actually see his feet. And they're using that to their advantage, I personally think, because you can't see from the footage that's been posted.
Right. But before that, Chad is in his face, like they're forehead to forehead.
Yeah.
Yelling at each other.
So sorry. So that the attorney that I'm referring to, he said if he would have shot him when he did the warning shot, like at the ground, he would have had more of a case for self-defense than when it actually happened. Because of what you're saying, because they're like, chest bumping or whatever was going on in that moment. And it was more of a imminent threat, I guess. I don't remember the actual term that was for that one, because there's, like I said, branches of this.
That's why law is so difficult, because it's so black and white and life is so not, like there's so many different things involved. That Chad guy clearly wasn't trying to kill Kyle. He was angry. He wanted his child, and you get testosterone. And then Kyle is feeling like he has to protect his home, and he has family in the home. So it's just so complicated.
I don't know. I feel like in this situation, from the video that I saw, I don't feel like Chad is a threat. I mean, he's yelling. How many times do people yell at their spouses or ex-spouses? Like, he's pissed off. She's not following the rules. I would be furious, right? Like, you give me my kid, and it's like they're having what seems like, in my opinion, a normal ex-spousal kind of argument. And like, I don't think like if he thought he was in danger, Kyle, he was able to leave to go get the gun. So why didn't you just call the police, say, hey, listen, I've got someone on my property causing a scene. Can you please come? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
that's the only thing that makes me kind of understand the widow's, she said she thinks that it was planned, a conspiracy to murder. Because even the wife is strange. Like, Chad is so frustrated. And at first I thought that was the child, because she's like just sitting there, and granted, she's doing the right thing. She's not escalating it. She's speaking very quietly, but we also don't know anything other than this video, like we don't know any of the history and who's acted in a crazy manner or
100%.
how long this has been going on for. And at one point Kyle says like he's not here, meaning the son that Chad's trying to pick up. So the whole thing just seems so complex.
Yeah, multifaceted for sure.
As of December 7th, the shooter had not been officially identified by police or prosecutors, as we said. However, in multiple civil court documents, Kyle Carruth was named as the person who shot and killed Chad, and these were his divorce proceedings. Multiple civil lawsuits were filed against Kyle for the death, and the Lubbock County District Attorney's Office recused itself due to Kyle's connection to the local elected official, which we're assuming is his estranged wife. So on November 27th, Jennifer Reid and her attorney, Matthew Harris, spoke to ABC's Good Morning America and explained why she released the video. Quote, "It had been 3 weeks and nothing had been done. And I felt like the public needed to know. And I feel like Chad deserves justice," she said. Jennifer also explained that she initially thought the gun Kyle grabbed was a stun gun. Quote, "I thought it was like a stun gun or a taser gun or something like that," she told GMA. "Who's going to bring out, they're having a discussion about a custody thing. There's no physical altercation. Who's going to bring a gun out? What? Why?" End quote.
So I said,
so I kind of believe that she thought it was a stun gun because in the video, she's the one videoing from the car. And after Chad falls, she's like just speaking normally. And then she gets out of the car and she runs up to him and you hear her scream, "Oh my God, you really did it. Oh my God, you actually did it." So she did think that he was.
I don't doubt that she didn't think that, but I was like, oh, I've seen it. And I don't know a lot about guns, but it doesn't look like a stun gun. But also, I think in these situations, your brain does weird stuff sometimes. And you're almost like, I think in this situation, she probably was like, there's no way he just got a real gun and just brought it out here because this doesn't call for that. It seems so shocking. On November 30th, 2021, Jennifer Reid filed a lawsuit against Kyle Carruth and his businesses for wrongful death. The lawsuit asks for $50 million. The lawsuit claimed Kyle, quote, interjected himself into the conversation after Chad's ex-wife, Christina Reid, refused to tell Chad where his son was. The lawsuit also said Kyle was neither standing his ground nor acting in self-defense. Quote, "Kyle Carruth was the aggressor who needlessly escalated an otherwise non-violent situation, leading to the wrongful death of Chad Wayne Reid," the lawsuit states. Later that day, State District Judge for the 237th District Court, Les Hatch, recused himself from presiding over Jennifer Reid's civil lawsuit. So lots of recusals happening.
Yeah, no kidding. Somebody's very connected.
I will say that like it's good that they're doing that.
It is. I just don't know how this guy's going to get a fair trial. Like how many judges and lawyers are there in Lubbock?
Yeah.
December 6th, Jinx Reid, Chad's mother, along with his 3 children, filed a lawsuit against Kyle Carruth and his businesses. The lawsuit, what we spoke about before was his wife, and now this is his mom. The lawsuit accuses Kyle of negligence for several things, including using deadly force when not justified, discharging a firearm merely to threaten an individual, failing to call authorities, and failing to render aid. Because nobody was helping
called
him
the
once
police?
he was on the ground. No, his wife did. She's the one calling police when she runs up to his body.
Oh man, they just because at the end, so I didn't watch the very end. I watched him go down, and then that's kind of it. And I will say, Kyle's just kind of standing there, like, well, like, hello, you just fucking shot a person. Like, I don't understand.
And she's really nonchalant too, and she's like, "Oh, Kyle, you like," I don't know what she says exactly, but something like, "You didn't have to do that." And I'm thinking like, "Oh my God, he's shot," but that's why I think for sure she thought it was just a stun gun because you hear her calling 911 and then she runs up and she's like, "Oh my God, you actually did it." And she freaks out. So traumatic for her. I can't imagine.
Well, for their
Court
kids
records
too. This is all over the internet now.
I know. Court records said Chad's mother and children have, quote, suffered mental and emotional anguish, including mental and emotional pain, torment and suffering, ultimately resulting from the death of a loving father and son, and will continue to suffer such in the future. The lawsuit also seeks punitive damages. So December 7th, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton released a statement and said his office has begun a criminal investigation into the shooting death. It's about time. The statement also says the AG's office would not comment on the case to protect its integrity. Surprise, surprise. Texas doesn't talk a lot about their cases. Quote, our office has begun a criminal investigation into the shooting. During the pendency? I guess when it's pending, I've never heard that word. During the pendency of any criminal investigation conducted by our office, we do not comment on the case to protect the integrity of the investigation, the statement said. Accordingly, we will not be commenting on the facts of this case. So I don't think we're getting a lot more than those 4 lines of text.
And not to be, but like someone is shot and killed, there should automatically be an investigation. Like, I don't understand why this took a minute. Okay, so while we were doing this, I think we had some questions about custody handovers and like what that looks like in Texas, and couple of things. Just when you are researching, just kind of a back story here. The law uses the word parent. It's a neutral term in documents and doesn't grant different rights to mothers or fathers. And then once they're divorced, they're joint managing conservators, which means they share decision-making, but not necessarily that the kids will be splitting their time evenly. If there is violence or an absent parent, then it's called a sole managing conservator. And then as far as I could tell, like things such as drop-offs or exchanges have to be made through a parenting plan. And if some reason parents can't agree on their custody issues, then they go to trial and then a judge will sort it all out. I could not find anything on their custody. And it's usually, I think that's the way it usually is because it's a minor and it's probably private. But in the video, you do hear him say, I was supposed to have him. I think he says 3:15. And he's like, basically like, you fucked up. Like, where's my kid? And that has got to be infuriating. And things with exes get so contentious and there's a kid and he just wants to get his kid and get out of there. And I understand his frustration. And I think this whole thing is out of control.
That's very interesting though. The Texas custody laws, I would not want to go through that because that would mean they're not necessarily partial to mothers like they are in California.
Yeah, it doesn't
they're
sound
just
that
parents.
Way. Yeah.
And then it's just split evenly. And then if you don't come up with a parenting plan, which what divorced couple can get together and come up with a parenting plan, you have to wait for a judge to do it. Like in California, there's just a set, like, okay, this is how much you're paying this, like you don't have to necessarily go through all of that.
Yeah. I think with custody though, like, I think even here you have to, they encourage the parents through mediation or whatever to figure their shit out. And if you can't do it, then you have to go to trial and deal with the judge, which then I think judges are like, you guys are idiots. You're wasting my time. And then he's like, or he or she is, does their thing. So
don't be so sexist. It could be a she.
Sorry.
So in this case, Chad went to retrieve his son because his ex-wife had missed the deadline of a court-ordered handoff, like we said. Right. Authorities stated that Chad should have instead had a judge sign an order for the return of his child, filing a lawsuit calling for a petition of a writ of habeas corpus, which then would require everyone showing up to court. And then second, if you need to have a sheriff or constable immediately pick up your child for your child's return, you could also ask the judge to sign an order called a writ of attachment directing the child's delivery or return. But I wonder how long all of this takes. If your child is missing, they're supposed to be with you at 3:15. I totally understand it being difficult to wait all of that out and call the judge. You want your kid.
I think what you could do too is instead of waiting for the judge, if you have a custody agreement that says you're supposed to have your kid at a certain time, I think you can call like a non-emergency police line and say, listen, I'm having trouble with my spouse. Here's our custody agreement. Can you please help me pick up my child? And
which clearly seems like that would have been the best thing to do.
But again, when you're heated and you're pissed off at your ex, like that's not where your brain goes. But the more you know, right?
Yeah.
So in Texas, when you have a court-ordered possession of a child, the judge must order the child's return to you. If the judge finds that you have a court order showing that you have a superior right to possession of the child, so basically what I was just saying, you would just call someone to help you when you've got that paperwork. The child is being illegally kept from the relator by the respondent. So again, this sounds like that could have fallen into that also. You have not given up possession of the child for 6 months before filing the petition, and there is no serious immediate question about the child's welfare. There is one caveat to this law. An exception exists if the judge finds that the existing court order granting possession was signed even though the parties to that case did not have reasonable notice of the hearing and a right to be heard. In that case, the judge cannot order a child's return to you based on the existing order of possession.
So much red tape, so many different caveats. It's crazy.
My advice was like, keep your paperwork close, call the non-emergency line and get some assistance, because people, especially right now, tensions are high already. Like,
yeah, I can't. It's got to be a very difficult thing to deal with on both sides.
yeah.
So what's next? As we told you earlier, Chad Reid's widow, Jennifer Reid, filed a lawsuit against Carruth and his companies claiming wrongful death, seeking $50 million. They keep saying and his companies.
Okay, so I was just gonna no. So it's because the scene of the crime is his business. That's why
shit.
They were, that house was also his business, and so that's why she's going after everything, because, or not going after, but you know what I mean, because it was basically
they can go after everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Then Chad Reid's mother, Jinx Reid, and 3 of his children filed a separate suit against him and his businesses, claiming Carruth negligently shot and killed Reid. And Jinx Reid's suit seeks more than $1 million, so not near the $50 million. In other court documents, Carruth filed a motion to transfer the venue of both cases and a motion to consolidate them into one case. The motion asks for the venue to be moved to Smith, Harris, or Cherokee counties in Texas, or wherever the court finds an impartial trial can be had. Carruth also requests a stay in the case. Interestingly, the court documents show Carruth has not been indicted, but infer the Attorney General's office is planning to make a final decision on whether to present the matter to a grand jury in the near future. So via a press release on January 6th of this year, it says, I've been contacted for an update in Jennifer Reid's child custody suit against Christina Reid and asked to respond to recent reports of that suit being dismissed. Mrs. Reid filed an intervention into Chad and Christina Reid's existing suit with their desire to protect their children from an ongoing exposure to their father's killer. Unfortunately, the court dismissed that suit, along with her petition, without a hearing on the merits of the case. That dismissal should not be viewed as condemnation by the courts of Christina Reid's actions. Given the dismissal, there are no child custody proceedings that are pending for Chad Reid's sons. Under Texas law, one of the blood relatives of the children would need to file suit to obtain custody of the children. And it pains Mrs. Reid that no family member has yet stepped up to protect these children. Mrs. Reid is glad that other family members have joined in her civil suit against Kyle Carruth, but wishes that their priorities had been to seek protection of the children first, as she did. And that is from her attorney, Matthew L. Harris.
Really quick, I wanted to jump backwards. The reason Kyle is asking for a stay, I find to be interesting. So his lawyer basically came out and said, because there's been no conclusion to this shooting, he should not have to go into litigation for these civil cases because he could perjure himself or not perjure.
Interesting.
What's the Fifth Amendment?
Incriminate.
Thank you, himself. So that's why they're asking for a stay on those. So this is still ongoing.
Very complicated.
Yeah, it's a lot of layers. And as soon as we get more word on any court decisions on this case, we will update you guys right away, as always. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from this horrible, tragic event is that having a neutral place, people, and possibly a neutral place away from home is key. It's also imperative that custody agreements are followed. But I think the neutral part of it is interesting, like a public parking lot and stuff of that nature seems to be, but again, I think they probably had something and then he was frustrated and went there. But look, involve authorities if you feel that you're not getting your kid when you're supposed to, or lawyers, and try and do it that route, because this should not have happened.
Even if it's not contentious, just having a neutral ground for the child's sake, so it's just not having something traumatic and then having it happen near your home. It's all so awful for the child, and it's unfortunate that these adults are not thinking of the children. I think that's very interesting what she said at the end of her statement. But if the custody agreements are not followed, these parents need to have some sort of swift recourse to get custody back of their child.
Yeah, because
I cannot even imagine.
All that is it's not realistic.
Yeah, it feels really unfair. But it is what it is, and that's the case of Chad Reid. We will keep you updated on everything that happens to Kyle Carruth if anything happens to him. So
yeah, it's very interesting. So make sure to follow us on all of our socials. It's at Murder and Retrograde. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and comment us here on YouTube or on the podcast. Rate us, we would love it. And then you can always visit us on our website, murderandretrograde.com. So
yes, and you can always suggest cases that you want to hear, or cases that you have information on. Please email us, contact us. We would love to hear from you.
So until next time, be safe
and trust your gut.
All right, see you guys.
Adios.